Good morning. How y'all doing today? All right, let's see if we can get a little more light on the matter. All right. Well, it's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, and I'm really glad to be up and about. I wanted to come in this morning and just explain to you guys kind of my strategy and what I'm doing. So in the mornings, I come in and share encouragement and support for moms and to help them kind of work through some things because I believe that the stronger we are as moms, the better we are able to help our children. And I'm the founder of the Star Finder movement. And Star Finder is about helping struggling students find out how great they truly are, helping them get focused on the things they do well and not just the things that they struggle with. But I know that in order for us to really truly be able to help our students, we have to be strong ourselves. And so there's sometimes some things as moms we struggle with. And today I want to talk about one of those things. It's called guilt. So we had a daughter who struggled with reading. I mean, it was like fourth grade and she was still struggling. I remember feeling guilt, feeling shame because somehow I, as her mom, had failed her. That I hadn't, and we were a homeschool family, so I was like, I didn't do it well. I didn't teach her how to read properly. It's all my fault. How do I fix this? How do I tell someone that I have a fourth grader, that can't read? There's shame associated with that. When we would go to church and she would go into Sunday school, I would just be on pins and needles because the teacher she had at the time always asked the students to read. And I knew that would be so humiliating for her because that was something she really struggled with. And so I went in and kind of let the Sunday school teacher know and gave him a heads up. And we went home and we read the lesson beforehand. And I just tried to, soften that just a little bit for her. But I just remember feeling like somehow I, as her mom, had something to do with that. And I came to realize that actually that feeling of guilt and shame caused me to not reach out as much or as quickly as I could have because I didn't want anybody else to know. Because somehow I thought it was my fault. So when you think of guilt, the actual definition for guilt is the fact of having committed a specific or implied offense or crime. That's guilt. And then the definition for shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by wrong or foolish behavior. Now those things don't fit because the reality is the reason your child is struggling, they maybe can't read, they don't know their mathematics, it's not something that you did, but it is something that we hide. We don't want the relatives to know about it. It's very taboo. I find even sometimes doing my live streaming that when I start talking about those kinds of things, there are a lot of moms, I'm realizing now, you're struggling. You're struggling out there with your students, your child who is not doing well in school, and you cannot figure out what to do. And you're suffering in silence because somehow you feel like it's your fault. And I am here this morning to debunk that lie because it's not about you. It's about your child. And there is purpose even in the struggle. There were things that we learned that we would not have learned any other way if our daughter had not struggled with reading. I learned about patience in a way that I never would have. I learned how to come alongside of her, walk in her shoes, be able to get a feel for what it might feel like to struggle in that area. Because reading is something that impacts every area of learning. I learned how to find other things that she did well so we could get focused on that. But I had to let go of those false, because they're not real, things called guilt and shame. I believe that the guilt and shame were produced by fear. And some people use an acronym that fear is false evidence appearing real. And there were some things that I was afraid of that caused me to feel guilty. I was afraid that somehow I had something to do with it. I was afraid it was my fault because I wasn't working hard enough. I was afraid because maybe I just wasn't smart enough or wise enough. I didn't know what to do. And being stuck caused me to be afraid because what's going to happen if our child doesn't get it? Is she going to end up having to repeat a grade? Will she ever learn how to read? And all of that somehow produced this sense of guilt and shame in me. Well, it's time to let that go. And you have to let it go because it doesn't belong to you. And here's why. God is not the author of confusion, number one. So if you find that you have turmoil inside, in your heart, in your mind, it's really not about you. And it's not about God, because that's not how he operates. He's not the author of confusion. And he does not condemn us. God does convict us when there are things that we need to get straight. But he never condemns us. And so that negative energy is actually keeping you from being free to look for every resource possible for your child. It's actually hindering you from asking the right questions. It's hindering you from being able to go forward into the educational environment where your child is and to ask for the help that you need. To realize that you have more power than you think. And that there's maybe things your child needs to do. There may be things that the school needs to do. And there may be some things at home that you can change that will help them maybe to focus better. You may need to have a more scheduled time when you're doing homework. You may need to let some stuff go so that when in the evenings when you come home, you're fresher and available to help. But that is a more positive way to move forward through it. You will not get to where you need to get to help your child become the star, to be the star finder, to help them find their greatness if you don't let go of the guilt. And so this morning, I'm just stopping in just to encourage you to think about that and to really consider checking your heart to see if guilt might be the thing, shame might be the thing that keeps you from really opening the doors to the struggle your student is having so that you can find a way, because there's a way. There is provision for you and your child. God is never going to put you in a position when you cannot accomplish a goal. He wouldn't have put you a goal that he's given. He wouldn't have put you in position as that child's parent and not given you the resources you need to be able to help them. So I want you to begin to let the guilt go, let the shame go, and begin to look for the solutions, the answers for this school year, because they are there. They are near you. You just need to change your lens and open your eyes and begin to look around you. It may be helping your family. There may be others who can tutor. There may be resources at the school. There may be a way for you to actually begin to resalt your child's love of that subject by doing fun things at home and field trips on the weekend and activities and all those kinds of fun things. There's a whole nother way to approach this. There may need to be more of a focus on the child's strengths. Now, our daughter who was struggling with her reading, we didn't go directly for the reading at first. We found things that she was really good at. And animals were one of the things she absolutely loved. And so this mom right here, who cannot stand certain kinds of animals, ended up with hamsters in her house. You know, those things that are rodents? Yeah. But I had to give up my rights so that we could give that child the help that she needed. And when she began to care for those hamsters, and she began to read about them and learn how to take care of them, and she got so good at it, she started breeding them, and then her and her dad would take them to the pet store, and she would sell them in exchange for food and bedding, and she became the neighborhood expert on animals. Then she moved to rabbits, and in my house. And finally, there were so many rabbits because rabbits have lots of babies. We had to move them out to the backyard. But she began to blossom. She became a star finder. She began to realize that, wow, okay, I'm struggling with my academics, but I'm really good at taking care of animals. And so we began to use her strength to actually pull up that area of struggle. And so she wanted to know more about her animals. So guess what? She started reading more. She started finding resources to be able to get better at the thing that she loved. And the story, and I'll tell you one day. But the end of the story is she ended up not only being a reader, she ended up being such a good reader. She ended up with a library of over 500 books. She ended up being a teacher, and she's one of the best teachers in her school. Why? I believe because she struggled with reading. She walked in the shoes of someone who struggles, and she's come up with techniques and solutions to help students love learning, and her students absolutely adore her. So the very thing that your child is struggling with may be a clue, a key to their future. So you got to let go of the guilt, because the guilt is stopping you from being able to see, okay, this is the way it is. Okay, God, what should we do about it? It's nobody's fault. Good morning. Thank you. You're welcome. It's nobody's fault. This is a no-fault situation. We're just going to move on from here. Okay, we see what the problem is. We see what the issue is. Maybe we've been too focused on the school and what they need to do. What can we do? What do we have the power to do? And then sit down and write that thing out. So I'm going to take these steps and we're going to do this. But the key to it is beginning to help that child find areas that they do well in. For some students, you can see it right away. You can see the areas that they love. You can see the areas that they're good at. Expand on that thing. Put them in classes. Get them around mentors that do that do the thing that they love. And then rework on getting them to enjoy certain subjects. Do you know some kids don't like math because of the way that it was introduced? that maybe it was a teacher, it was a class situation, it was substitutes, it was environment, it was something that happened when they were introduced to that subject that has caused them to not like it, to say, I hate reading or I don't like math. You think that, oh, well, that's just my child. They're good at reading, but they don't like math. That might not be it. You may just need to go back and reintroduce the subject yourself with fun, engaging ways. Not with workbooks and, mom give me homework on the weekends, but fun kinds of hands-on field trips to the store where you have them adding up the cost of your fruit that you bought and helping them to use, their percentages and their decimals and their addition and their subtraction. There's fun ways to reintroduce something that your child does not like without them even knowing what you're doing. So, guilt, shame, they don't belong to you. The only thing they will do for you is keep you stuck and keep you from being able to move forward. Even if there are things that you could have done better, even if you look back and you realize, oh, wow, God was telling me blah, 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 blah. I should have listened. It's okay. He is not condemning you. He wants you to be able to use the resources that he is providing. They're all around. He wants you to be able to see them. But you have to take off that lens of guilt and shame. And you have to put on the lens of trust and anticipation that God is going to give you exactly what you need. And so if what I'm sharing today is helping you, I pray you would share it with other moms and let them know that help and hope are here, that this can be a different school year. That if we're going to help our child, our grandchild, or our nephew, or our neighborhood children, we have to be strong ourselves so that we can stand, as I talked about the other day, so that we can help pull them up to where they need to be. And we will not be able to accomplish that if we're walking in guilt and shame. So, I hope today you take a look and make sure that you are not locked in and hindered by those things, and that you are trusting and hopeful that you can be exactly what your child needs. I love you guys. I pray you have a fantastic day. And I'm asking God to help you to see how truly amazing you really are. That you would know that you already have the mind of Christ if you belong to him. And that he is thinking good thoughts of you. He knows that you are more than able, that you are a conqueror, that you are an overcomer, that this is a good day because it's a day that God has given, and that you have been resourced with everything you need. And every time any other thought comes up, when the shame tries to come, when the guilt tries to come, I want you to have a scripture that God has given you to put in place of that thing, and use the very thing that the enemy is trying to use to pull you down, to keep you stuck, to be the impetus, the reminder of who you truly are in God. All right, have a fantastic day. I pray that you guys remember what I said. Hey there, MJ. Good to see you. Catch the replay. I'm heading out.